All right, next up on the list is the Toyota Land Cruiser. It's kind of a truck that speaks for itself. There's not a whole lot that hasn't been already discussed on Land Cruisers in general. They've been around forever. They've always, it's a truck that you can buy, keep for many years, put a bunch of miles on, and basically sell it for what you bought it for. So, and compared to the Porsche, it's a much greater value as far as a longer term investment. The Porsche, retailed for over 80. These retailed from 70 to almost 90. The Porsche is probably worth in the current condition around 8 or 9. This one, with only 138,000 miles, is probably worth, upwards of 17, 18, 19 in the current market. So that's your first big positive with Land Cruisers. They've got a heritage, they've got a following, they've got the name, it's got Toyota reliability, and that's what really draws a lot of people to the brand. They're great off-road. They get terrible fuel mileage. They're super reliable. They're fairly easy to wrench on, and they're super safe. There's a lot of factors that kind of lead into what makes a Land Cruiser a Land Cruiser. But we'll go into the comparison specs. So the Porsche was four-wheel independent suspension. Sitting on a non-framed chassis. It's more of a unibody type of construction. This is a body-on-frame truck. It's got a solid rear axle. It's got independent front suspension. I think in 1998, when the 100 series came out, the 80 series was discontinued, and they went from a solid front axle in the 80s to independent in the 100 in the U.S. market. Other markets still continued on. I think the 105 in Australia and different other, African countries, you could still get the UN spec. You could get it in a diesel. You can get it in all different configurations. But the U.S. market just got the kind of one or two different specs, Land Cruiser LX 470. So these have the 4.7 liter V8. It was pretty much the same engine up until, I believe, 2006, 2007, where they added VVTi. You got about a 20 horsepower bump. But again, it's a very reliable, robust engine. There's not a whole lot of things that can really go wrong with these. As long as you replace the timing belt at about 100,000 or every 100,000 miles, do the heater tees, and check all the other little bits and bobs in there, change the oil frequently, they kind of go forever. This Land Cruiser is pretty much loaded with all the features of the time. It has Bluetooth, actually, for hands-free phone. It doesn't connect through your music, but it does Bluetooth. It's got a backup camera, keyless entry. Garage remote. All the kind of early 90s luxury features were definitely chucked into this thing, and they all still work. That's the difference between, a lot of these, the European in comparison to the Japanese models. Lots of the functions are still very usable and intact with these. These Land Cruisers were actually still built in Japan, and their service, their manufacturer service serviceability, as far as what they're built to withstand as a service life, was I think 25 to 30 years. So they definitely were built to withstand the test of time in all different environments. It's a very user-friendly, robust platform. All right, let's talk about the interior. The interior of the Land Cruiser is very nice. It's not as German, obviously, as the Cayenne. All the switchgear, and so when 2003, 2004 models, we get a different display. It's the same kind of Toyota Lexus screen, I guess you can call it, that they use for many years. Even if you get into a 200 series or an earlier, later model Lexus, it all looks about the same. They didn't change the pixelation or anything all that much, and it still doesn't look too bad today, honestly. It's very functional. It is kind of annoying that your HVAC controls are, you know, manipulated through this. In case the screen ever goes bad, you're kind of SOL as far as, you know, that type of, you know, configuration concerned. They're probably $300 or $400 to replace, but again, if you're looking for long-term reliability, it is something to kind of think about. Other than that, the materials are very nice in here. No real dash cracking issues like 4th gen 4Runners and you know, the Lexus models. They had that soft dash problem. There's a service recall to replace that. Leather steering wheel, non-heated. You've got heated seats, and you've got power, second start, 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive low. We'll demonstrate that in a little bit. And, you know, all the creature comforts you'd want. You've got a center diff lock, no rear diff lock. This truck is equipped with A-Track. Uses the braking system to kind of act as a differential lock by kind of braking the wheels that are losing traction. Again, you've got sunroof. This one has a DVD player, 3rd row seating, rear AC, and all the kind of, you know, amenities and whatnot that you could want in a big luxurious off-road truck. You know, this gets between, let's see what it says on the trip info. I'm getting around 13 on the highway, 11 around town. I've seen up to 15 or 16, but with a 2-inch lift and 305 PFGs on it and a big ARB in the front, I'm not doing too great. You know, it's a big truck. It does fine on the highway with all the off-road add-ons that this one has. You're going to struggle to hit those high MPGs. I mean, no matter what you do, you're going to get the same MPG. If you go in the forums, you know, it'll all tell you the same stuff. But you know, this one, you're not going to win any. You're not going to win any awards or any high mileage, hyper miling, you know, competitions with this thing. All right, so I'll demonstrate the 4-wheel drive on this truck. You just pop it in neutral. Unlike the Porsche, this has a manual selector, so you're actually physically putting it into high or low. You know, to me, I like the reliability of that. I like the fact that it's not going to jam. A lot of these systems are use it or lose it, but this one, you know, you can always kind of muscle it in if you need to. So I'm in neutral. I can pull it down in here in low. I can engage the center diff lock. You can hear it engaging. Put it back in drive. As you can see, you know, all right, as you can see, the dash lights illuminate, so we're in 4 low. Your VSC and traction control are off. I actually have that kind of permanently disengaged for the time being in this particular Land Cruiser. I found it annoying kind of going around corners. It does kick in a little bit, you know, it's a little bit obtrusive as far as that's concerned. But yeah, we're in 4-wheel drive now. It's very quick, very easy, and you can definitely feel the lower ratios immediately. I mean, when this thing is in 4 low, you can feel the amount of torque it has, and it'll pull pretty much up anything. To get out of it, you know, simply put it back into neutral, disengage the center diff lock, pop it back into high, and just like that, you're back into 4 high for normal driving. So here is the Toyota 4.7 liter V8. This one's paired to a 5-speed automatic. That changed in the 2000, I believe 2003, 2004, 5 models from the original 4-speed from the 98. Again, it's a pretty clean engine bay. Everything's very accessible. No major issues as far as reliability with these besides the timing belt. You know, coil packs can be an issue sometimes. You got to make sure you place your heater tees back here. They get brittle and crack. But other than that, you know, it's all very straightforward and easy to maintain. You know, it's at the end of the day, you do get Toyota reliability, and that's something that kind of sets these Land Cruisers apart. You know, they're known for that, and that heritage is actually backed up by reality. You know, it took me a while to find this one, and I do like it a lot. You know, it doesn't have the power that the Cayenne has, or the cruising ability as far as on-road prowess, but it's not bad. You know, with the stiffer suspension, with the old man Emu shocks and springs, and the heavy-duty front and back, it definitely improves ride quality a little bit, but it also does ride decently rough. So let's take it around the block for a spin and see how it does. In the Land Cruiser, you know, it's got a different driving position than the Porsche. Obviously, you're sitting up a lot higher. You're also sitting up about the same as the Range Rover, with probably a slightly less raked windshield, but definitely you get the look out over the hood, see the bumper. It definitely feels more like a truck. It feels mean, it feels solid. Less steering input feel. Again, it tracks straight and everything's fairly tight up there, but it's much more vague, I think, than the Porsche and the Range Rover. And I think most of these Land Cruisers kind of feel like that, unless you're running street tires. It's just there's a trade-off there when you put the big beefies in it. But these things ride very smooth, very comfortable. They're meant to put a whole bunch of miles on, and it's very, the interior materials are nice enough that there's not a lot of shakes and rattles. It's not a new car, but for myself and for the purpose of the times, it is fairly modern, and it definitely holds up looks wise. These things all, even with the 200 series, don't look too different. All right, so we're gonna pull out and test the acceleration here. It's got a lot of torque, but it's not fast. That is the downside of this. On the highway, it's fairly sluggish. It can get out of its own way. I mean, it's good that you have the V8. You can definitely feel it. The torque's great. But at the end of the day, you're definitely putting your foot to the floor. It's got to shift into third for the most part. And again, it'll get up and scoot, but it's not in any way, I think, considered quick. Like I said, I've got the different off-road modifications on here that obviously affect fuel performance and economy. But at the end of the day, with this one, it's much slower, and you definitely feel it going up grades and going up hills. And it does kind of hurt the overall marks for this in comparison to the 5.7 in the 200 series. That's really where you feel the main difference in the two trucks, is the amount of power you get from the different power plant. But again, it's adequate and it works. I'll do another pull here once this light turns green. So between the two, right now, we've looked at the Cayenne Turbo and the Land Cruiser. Again, they both have their pros and cons, but as far as which one I would rather own for the long term and for, holding its value, off-road prowess, and kind of ease of maintenance, I'm going to have to stay with the Land Cruiser.